What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I need to talk a little bit about the protests that are going on in this country because it's starting to hit alarming rates. And not only is it flooding our streets and causing mass issues when it comes to traffic, people's ability to go out and enjoy themselves on weekends, or even to have a civil conversation and discourse in public. It's now starting to put Canadian safety at risk as the Palestinian protests are now getting out of control Canada-wide. Now, I'm going to show you guys what happened in Toronto over the last weekend because I think it sets a good picture. We've seen these protests in Calgary, where I live. I've seen them in Winnipeg every weekend. I've heard about them all across the country, but I think that what's happening in Toronto is a good example of what's going on. Now, I'm going to state first and foremost that I'm pro-Canada. I don't think Canada should go sticking its nose into other countries' problems at a time, especially when Canada can't even look after its own people. I say it all the time here on the channel that we have people sleeping in tents. We have tent cities across the country, and winter is on its way. Many of the people in those communities are going to suffer excruciating discomfort and possibly unaliving themselves during rapid drops in temperature. Again, I think Canada has bigger concerns when families can't afford to feed their children, people can't afford to get to work, and we have a prime minister who seems to think that Canada's checkbook has a never-ending balance. I'm going to show you a clip here of this tweet that went out: tens of thousands marching in Toronto to mark 1 year of Israel's relentless bombardment and genocide in Gaza. I can't see the beginning or the end of the procession. Just take a look here. I mean, I believe this was Yonge Street. I was told this was Yonge Street. Again, I don't know Toronto very well, so please forgive me if I'm wrong. I was also told that it was around Dundas. So again, if I'm wrong, I apologize. But look at the crowds. Look at the crowds going through. I don't see a single Canadian flag in here. I mean, why would you? Because apparently now it's a crime to hate to love Canada. You're not allowed to love your country anymore. You have to virtue signal for everyone else's. When you think about an uprising, when you think about anybody getting fed up with not being heard in Canada, if the government said tomorrow that they were going to stop these protests, that they don't agree with these protests, what kind of problems do you think they'd have on their hand when these are the turnout crowds for these protests? When you see these protests, not even the protests, but the prayers going on in streets that are shutting down traffic every week throughout Canada. This isn't Canada's problem. I've said a million times over, if you've got a problem with what's going on in Palestine, you're free to get on a plane and go there and protest. Why won't people go there and protest? Well, because they know what's going to happen to them if they did. So they flood our streets like it's our problem. Canada doesn't have the finances nor the military to really do anything about this. So I cease to understand what it is people are expecting Canada to do about a war that they have nothing to do with. And when I say nothing to do with, I mean in terms of financial investment or military might. I mean, here's a sped up transition of just how many people went through. Like, look at this. Like, it's endless. Absolutely endless. In my opinion, this needs to stop. It needs to stop sooner than later. Again, anytime you have an opinion against those who are passionate about Palestine, you're often met with aggression, you're met with threats. And I'm not the only one who thinks so, because I want to go back to this article from the Clown Broadcasting Corporation back in March. Trudeau says some pro-Palestinian protests crossed the line into hate and harassment. So even people with very few brain cells like Justin Trudeau have come out and said, this isn't a good thing. He says he's heard from members of Canada's Jewish community who feel unsafe. It's not just the Jewish community. I wouldn't want to walk around downtown Calgary if there was that many people aggressively waving their flags and saying that if you don't agree with their message, you're wrong, you're racist, you're misogynistic, you're part of a small fringe minority with unacceptable views. Pro-Palestinian protests that include expressions of hatred or harassing behavior cross a line, Justin Trudeau said. He told a press conference in Toronto that he's heard from too many members of Canada's Jewish community who have seen protests at synagogues and community centers and who now feel unsafe. Here's my question. Multiple churches are burning down across the country. Where's Justin Trudeau saying that that has to stop? How come we don't see anybody with Canadian flags outside of those churches saying enough is enough? This has to stop. The loss of civilian lives and the impact on Canadian families and people who are worried about their loved ones is entirely understandable, he said. And again, if you're affected by what's happening over there, yeah, my heart goes out to you. War is a terrible thing, no matter what country is dealing with it, what country is having that going on. But it's not Canada's place to get involved at a time when we can't even look after ourselves. Trudeau said he expects Canadians, including police, to act within the law and make sure everyone can feel safe. Well, we all know how that's turned out. Again, this article goes back to March. There are horrible things that we are seeing, but it's not who we are but it is not who we are to take in or to take it out of our fellow Canadians, he said. Hateful or harassing behavior, particularly against neighbors, is not what we do here in Canada. Canadians have a right to protest, not according to Justin Trudeau. That's where, again, this article is so hypocritical. You think about the Freedom Convoy. Well, you're allowed to protest so long as it's not against Captain Tampon and the government. Absolutely. To make their anguish, their anger heard by other Canadians, it's important that we will always protect that right. Again, hypocrisy at its finest. No, they don't protect that right. In fact, if you dare stand up against Justin Trudeau and his totalitarian government, well, they'll freeze your bank accounts if you donate to anybody to support that. They'll also trample you with horses. They'll throw you in jail. They'll ruin your life and take away your livelihood. When protests turn to hatred and to acts of harassment, particularly against fellow Canadians, there's a line that's crossed. On Tuesday, Quebec's senior court granted a Montreal synagogue and a Jewish organization an injunction barring some pro-Palestinian protesters from coming within 50 meters of their buildings. I don't see why not. Again, a large portion of the people protesting at these events aren't even Canadian-born citizens. If you step over that line, you should be deported. You should be sent out of the country. If you can't follow our laws and respect our way of life, it's time to go. A representative for the Center of Israel and Jewish Affairs said the community sought the injunction after protests surrounded a Jewish community center on Monday, blocking people inside and chanting anti-Semitic slogans. We've seen this all throughout the year, so this isn't anything new. Sarah Biven, a member of the Independent Jewish Voices, said the protesters were passionately but not violently speaking out, against specific events. That included one event featuring members from the Israeli Armed Forces and another that she described as a real estate tour selling properties in illegal settlements in the West Bank. Montreal MP Anthony Housefather said in an interview a day before Trudeau's comments that it is completely unacceptable for protests to target Jewish houses of worship, community centers, or businesses. These protests shouldn't be targeting our streets. They shouldn't be targeting towns like Montreal to shut down traffic so that thousands can pray in the streets. Don't they have mosques for this? Don't they have their own places of worship? The problem here, and the reason that I'm talking about this today, is that Canada is at a point on the brink of civil war. People have had enough. The hypocrisy that comes from being told that we're going to continue to embrace the right to protest, unless, of course, you speak out against us, is hypocrisy at its best. It's demeaning to those who lost their careers, who lost their livelihoods during the Freedom Convoy, to those who still are having issues with their bank accounts, people who still can't live a normal life for simply telling the government during a time where they overreached that they were wrong to do so. I don't know about you guys. I didn't see any violence during the Freedom Convoy. I didn't see any aggression like we see with these protests. I've shown videos in the past of these protests where protesters are telling police that they'll put them 6 feet deep if they step over a line. I think the time has come where city officials, where prime ministers, where MPs, where mayors, anybody involved in the political system or in the law must start telling these protesters, it's time to put your flags down. It's time to go home. It's time to get out of the streets. We feel for you. We feel for what you're going through, but this isn't Canada's fight. It's not for us to put up with these things because the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, continue to grow and are going to continue to grow until something escalates to the point that there's nothing we can do about it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Let me think what you think about the government being silent about our churches burning. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a thumbs up or a comment down below. It helps push this video out into YouTube's algorithm, tells people this is worth watching. And again, YouTube heavily censors these kind of videos. Any help you can give us if you enjoyed the content is greatly appreciated. If you're hitting that subscribe button, we're quickly climbing our way up to 50,000 subscribers here on the channel. I'd love to see if we can shatter that before the end of October. So if you're enjoying the content here again, join us in our small fringe minority or our large fringe majority now, and hit that bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday for Friday Night Fringe, my live streaming show where I sit down with my wife, Mrs. Fringe, and we talk about everything going on in politics, everything that we know that's coming up ahead, and some back and forth within our community. It's always great to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos, and I look forward to hearing what each and every one of you has to say this Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.